I feel like Josh has, had a really good solid week coming off last Saturday.
I'm sorry, has he what?
Do you feel like Josh has had a really solid week thus far coming off last Saturday?
Yeah, he has. Josh is always competitive and has been doing a great job of getting better every practice. So I'm happy with where he is, and I know he's going to continue to even get better. So he's doing a great job.
Which because you're working on short yardage and maybe improving some little things in your short yardage, how does that come along doing those 3rd and 1 in those types of situations?
Well, we actually had an emphasis of 3rd and 1 today, and I like where it is. We've decided we're going to own some plays, and we're going to rep them and rep them and rep them, and that's what we're doing, and we're a lot better right now. So we got to continue to get better at them, but I like where we are with them right now.
Some of the offensive linemen have mentioned that during offensive film sessions that maybe last year they didn't go over as much offensive line as you guys do this year, and it's kind of got them energized to see somebody taking so much time with them. Have you seen that kind of enthusiasm out of those guys?
Yeah, I've noticed enthusiasm when I first came, but I really try to get around to all positions, and yesterday I met with some receivers and an offensive lineman, and so I'm trying to again build relationships, and so I'm glad they feel that way.
Coach, what's your philosophy on H-backs, fullbacks in the college game these days?
Well, I think it all depends on what your offense is, and we'll do a little bit of that. We'll have a mixture of that, but again, it's all philosophy of what you're doing on offense. So some people do more of it, and others don't. So
you mentioned the receivers. What kind of practice, what kind of camp do you think the wide receivers have had for you so far?
Well, Pig has been a warrior. He's been going and doing a heck of a job, and Johnson's been a guy that's been banged up a little bit, and he keeps going. And Vaughn really had a good day today, and he's had some times where, just like all players do, where they're battling through some things. But today he came back and had a really good practice. So I like their focus, and they're working to get better.
How far have the freshman quarterbacks come along since when you first got your hands on them?
Well, they have their moments where they really look good, and they have moments where they don't. So we've got to get them on a consistent basis, and that's where they're working to get towards, and that's where we're trying to get them. So they just got to continue working, and they'll work themselves through situations like today. Quentin had a pass that he actually ended up going to the wrong side on, and that's just experience. We haven't repped that play a lot, but yet that's just experience, and the more he reps plays, the more he'll own those plays.
Coach DeBord, Coach Azani just said that maybe the human element crept in last week with a couple of wide receivers being banged up, and that's why the offense didn't have such a great day. How do you coach through that when you're kind of in the grind of spring and you want to have one good last scrimmage coming up on Saturday?
Well, Coach Jones talks about it, but this is where you're building your team. So it's just like training camp. Training camp's like that too, where you have days like that. And the biggest thing we keep telling them is to keep fighting through things, because there's going to be games where we're fighting to that last down, that last second, and so we just want guys to have that mentality all the time. So guys are working through that.
Mike, how much are Quentin and Juwan swimming at this point with the tempo and with the faster, the change in the speed at this level?
Well, I think everybody has to remember, and Butch keeps reminding me that, hey, these guys should be in high school and going to their proms and stuff like that. So, but those guys are really committed. They're working hard, and as I just mentioned, they have their ups and downs with plays and stuff, and they're gonna get to that point where they're owning those plays. So they're great kids. They're working hard, and and I like where they are at their age right now.
When you inherited them, obviously with Josh, you had last year's tape to look at. What did you kind of do to prepare to coach Quentin and Juwan? Did you go back and watch their high school film, or just kind of clean slate? You just want to see what they did here?
I did. I went back and watched them in high school film to watch what they did and how they were mechanically and things like that. So. I did look at them a little bit on film.
Is one ahead of the other right now, or is it?
We're kind of playing them. They're playing different kind of roles at quarterback right now, and so I don't look at anybody as ahead of each other right now. That's not what we said to them at first. We said, look, what we want to do is every day work at getting better, so we get to that first game, they're ready to go. So it's just a day-to-day process, and they both again are making strides.
With the situation you have at quarterback, I know Coach had talked about the importance of Josh running smart, protecting himself.
Right.
How difficult is it to teach that to not take away his explosiveness and versatility while also reminding him to be?
Well, we want him to be explosive. We want him to play aggressive, but yet he's got to play smart. And so there's going to be times where he's going to have to get down and make decisions that way. And that doesn't show, his ability, his lack of toughness or anything. It's just we want him to play smart that way because we don't want him to take a lot of hits.
Did you go back to his time he played last year and point out to him times where he maybe could have gotten down or ran out of bounds?
Yeah,
at
sure.
Point with him?
Yeah, we look at a lot of our, we have a lot of cut-ups of our plays from last year, and there's times where you'll say, look, Josh, there's no need to take this one. We got to get down here. So, we point things out like that as we're watching film.
It seemed like before the start of spring, Coleman Thomas was really being touted by Butch to watch him throughout spring, and then he had a suspension. How do you bring him along during these last 8 or 9 practices to make sure he ends on a high note where you guys want him to be?
Well, just reps. He just got to, he got reps today. Got in there and got reps today. So, again, he's got a shorter spring, but he's focused and he's working at getting better. So he's got to really make every rep count.
How many different positions do you want to try him at?
Not many. We're going to probably look at 2, but really with 1 is the priority right now. But, it goes back to what we said early in spring. We want to get the 5 best guys on the field. So wherever he has to play, then he's, if he's one of the 5, he's got to play.
I guess it's tough to get a feel for the receiving corps as a whole and how it gels when you don't have a couple of the towers out there, the croons out there for contact. Obviously, Marquez can't take contact right now. Is it tough to gauge the full picture of what you got there without those guys?
Well, yes and no. It gives other guys opportunities right now. And so it's given those guys opportunities for us to look at them and evaluate them and to see where they're going to fit. And so then we get into training camp, it'll continue to be competition and we'll, again, play the best receivers that we have there. So, in some ways yes, some ways no, because, some guys a lot of guys are getting reps, so they're showing what they can do.
And when you get that full big picture back there, I know it's football, so you don't ever have 100% health at every spot, but if most of those guys are healthy at the same time, the diversity there in terms of size, ability, potential things they can do, is that ideal as a coordinator to have those kind of options?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I watched those guys on film last year, so I feel like I know what they can do. But, obviously Zach, we're always talking about certain plays and, what guys can do and when we get them back. So, and the other thing is when we're going such fast tempo, we need a lot of receivers playing, to stay fresh. So the more that can play, the better we are.
Is the bouncing around different position groups, is that something you've always done as a coordinator?
I've always tried to, yes. I've always tried to, I never wanted just to be with my position. I wanted to try to get around and, I wanted guys to know that, hey, we're in this together. It's not, me and them, it's us. And so I try to get around and, being new, I'm trying to build relationships with them. And so that also helps with that.
How difficult is that to juggle throughout the week when you're bouncing around maybe one day with receivers and the next day with offensive line? How difficult is that for you?
Well, I don't do it like that. In practice, most of the time I'm with the quarterbacks the majority of the time. But what I try to do is in off days, I try to, have somebody come in and see me and so we can just sit down and talk. And I did that yesterday. I had a couple guys in, we just sat and talked a little bit. So that's how I'm trying to build it. But then when I'm out on the practice field, when we're not actually in drills or whatever, whether it's stretch or whether it's during a kicking session or whatever, I'm always trying to go around and get guys going that way. So I think they appreciate that.
Mike, I know you've been around a lot of great running backs in your coaching career. Just after a few weeks with Jalen and Alvin, how do you just assess their potential as a duo?
Well, I like them a lot. They're quick, they're fast. I think they're very durable, which that's probably the greatest measure of a running back. So I like them both, and we're going to need them both. So.
And how do those guys work together? Because it seems like they're both maybe starting talents. How do they work in terms of sharing the reps and just their relationship with each other also?
Everything I've seen has been great. I've seen Jalen helping Alvin with things and saying, in this particular play, because some of these plays are a little different than what Alvin's done before. So, it's like all of our guys on our team. They're always trying to help each other out and, being a leader.
Thanks.
Yep.
Is that again?
Oh, can I? One thing real quick. Coach Gillespie was talking about possibly using Hurd and Alvin at the same time.
Yes.
How interesting a prospect is that for you?
Well, it's very good. We've because they've both been banged up, we haven't had them both at the same time except for today. And so today what we did is we did work a little bit of that with both guys in it. So we're just going to, we put a little bit of about 4 plays in today, and we're just going to keep building that package every day with those 2 guys.
11 practices in. Where do you feel like your quarterbacks have grown the most since the first couple of days?
What they've what?
Where they've grown the most?
Oh, where they've grown? That's a good question. I think probably everyone's a little different. I think Josh has grown in leadership. I think, I think Josh has really grown in his pocket presence and his mechanics, throwing the ball, things like that. I think he's done that. Whereas Quentin and Juwan, they're learning new plays every day. I mean, we put in new plays today. So, that'll continue all the way to that last practice. So, they're learning, the terminology and new plays and things like that.
We talk about his stuff in the pocket, Josh's. That was something you guys talked about when he was interviewed here.
Right.
How much have you seen maybe his dedication in that and his growth even since when you guys met? Was it back in January or February?
Yeah, a lot. I think that, the biggest thing we talk about is you always throw with your feet. And so you've always got to have your feet in line with where you're throwing the ball, and you can't make throws. And I think sometimes because Josh is so athletic that, sometimes in the past I think he felt like he could make throws where his feet weren't in line sometimes because he was, again, a very athletic quarterback. So we've just continued to work all types of drills with him and throwing on the run and moving in the pocket and making throws that way. So.